We're back, people, and today we got another video going over why I think the Miami Dolphins need to let the young corners play. We've talked a lot about potential veteran free agent corners, bringing them in, and I think, at this point, I kind of just feel like unless the price point's really good, I'm probably just not bringing anyone in. I think they would just, ruin the development of a lot of these young corners. So you have a lot of young corners who are unproven, but there's some developmental upside there. I think bringing in any of these guys, is probably the worst thing for this team in the long run. I think when you're looking at those that are in free agents, we can start with them. There's three main guys: Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr., and Jair Alexander. Those are some of the guys, they're looking at potentially to bring in. And I think, does the, risk outweigh the reward? I think the risk is worse than the reward being brought in. I don't know if any of them, move the needle enough. I think the only one that you can argue can move the needle is Jair Alexander, but he has his warts. They all do. We can start like with Rasul Douglas. He is someone they brought in, offered him a contract, so that tells me, they're not even on price point. I don't want to pay a player like him more than he probably deserves. He's a guy that is clearly just a one-year rental, being plus 30. He would go against kind of the whole off-season plan of bringing someone in of that age that, I think could potentially lose a step. I could see a potential Jordan Poyer situation bringing in a Douglas. He also has some lack of coverage versatility. He's really only a cover 2 corner that plays with vision to the QB. I don't really see any man-to-man. We've talked about potential more man-to-man work for the Dolphins corner this year. So I think, bringing Douglas, unless he's super, super cheap, I probably, wouldn't want that, because even bringing someone in super cheap will also potentially push someone off the Dolphins roster that you are trying to develop, because you want to have as many dart throws as possible, in my opinion, at that position. And you have a lot of guys there that are potential dart throws that I think could turn into something, which is the best thing long term. Then you go to someone like Asante Samuel Jr., and he's the one that has the most potential, I guess, long term to help the team, because he is still only 25, but he has some very serious neck injury that he's coming off of. He won't even talk to teams until July. So to me, he's kind of not even someone I'm thinking about at this current moment. Now, if you get to training camp and the corner position looks rough, then I could see potentially trying to think of adding him, because he should still be around and out there. But that neck injury seems serious. It seems like it's something that he's dealt with kind of his entire life, with stingers up there. He's already a small corner that doesn't like to tackle, and with neck injuries, I don't know if I want a guy like that on the team. I kind of want those young corners that are hungry. I want guys back there that are super hungry to compete, fighting for their jobs. You don't really get to see this often. It's the worst, one of the worst position groups in the league, but you get to see a bunch of guys that are not only fighting for a roster spot, but also fighting for a starting spot. It's a pretty rare, unique opportunity. I think you can get some guys who are really hungry to get that. We'll get to them in a second. And then you have Jair Alexander, who clearly has the best chance. I don't think any of these guys are corner ones at this point. Jair's probably the closest to it, but I think he's more of a corner 2 at this point. He's still good. He's 28, but we know the question marks. One, he'll be the most expensive of the 3. That's something that I think, would be a turn away initially, but I think, I could be talked into it if it wasn't for the other 2 things, which is huge injury question marks. We've already talked about the Dolphins enough with injuries. He would be at the top of the list with most injured Dolphins on the team if they signed him, and that's already, bad enough as it is. And then also there's some potential question marks when it comes to him being a potential headache. There's things I've remember reading about in the past about him, and also I've heard other people talk about the Packers coaches were it's not worth it anymore. And I don't think the Dolphins want to add someone like that. I just don't know if it's potentially worth it, because while I think all of them could, improve your corner room, I don't know if any of them would improve the new room enough. If you're going to bring one in, you might as well bring in 2 of them, because that could completely change your room, but then that would completely stopgap the development you have, and that would be okay, you're picking the short term over the long term. But I don't think that's Dolphins mindset going into this season, just based on all the other moves they make. And then you get into the young guys. Look at the young guys they have there. They have Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, Ethan Bonner, Jason Marshall Jr., BJ Adams, even some potential other. But those are the main 5. 5 guys right there. There's 2 spots open. Kinder Hako's gonna have a spot. That's 5 guys that, I see some potential upside in this room. And that's what you're looking for long term. It's same with the safety room too. You're looking for at least one of the young guys to step up that can, one, help in the short term. That would be great, but also be oh, we're comfortable with you being a starter the next season and potentially the season after that. So we don't have to add multiple corners in the offseason or multiple safeties. And you look at these guys, I think Storm Duck going to get the first crack at it. He was one that showed some decent work last year. There's still, warts to his game. He's definitely not a for sure thing, but he's got some athleticism. He's, very competitive, and he's had a strong start with like mini camps and OTAs, which is always a good sign, but, still got to get to regular game time. And I think, we talked about the Dolphins playing more press man this year. I think that fits all 5 of those players I just mentioned. I think it helps all of them a lot, which is big. And just even going through scheme, I think the scheme is a big thing that plays a part with this team, where they don't need to have like high-end corners with what they're trying to accomplish. Because what they're trying to accomplish is clearly up front, bring 4 and still getting quick pressure with whether it's, simulated pressure looks, manufacturing it up front with, twists, stunts, fire zone, still bringing 4, and then spot dropping in zone. The Dolphins will like to do their spot drop, and then you just have to be able to take away a throwing lane for a split second and hope then your guy can get after the quarterback. And I think, that's something they're relying on. You got to have guys who are out there that can play some disciplined football, and if they're not playing discipline, then they, boom, you try someone else. And then also, doing the press man stuff, disrupting route timing, a lot of post-snap coverage rotations. That's why I think they brought in some of the safeties they brought in that are kind of, built for that. Some other young corners that you want to see, like if you add like last year, Isaiah Johnson was on the practice squad. You start adding corners to that secondary, there's a chance Isaiah Johnson gets pushed down, or someone like Isaiah Johnson gets pushed down to the practice squad again and won't even get a chance to potentially play in the season to see what he has. And I think Isaiah Johnson, another one that you can see potential step up, just absolutely great physical profile. So big, so lengthy. He's a guy that can get physical at the line. He also could be a good special teams player for you. Better short area athleticism than you would think for a guy of that size. That can be a little bit stiff in the hips at times, but there's definitely something there to like with Isaiah Johnson. Love his physicality. He's someone that I could see fitting into the scheme that they're trying to do. And I think, he's someone that could really take a hit from them adding a veteran free agent presence. Ethan Bonner, he's someone who didn't even get to play at all last season, played 10 snaps in the regular season after having a strong rookie year for UDFA. When the games he came in, he made plays. He's someone that I think you got to see what you have here. You have to see some sort of play out of him during this regular season to see if there's something there. Because teams wanted to, Greer mentioned it last year in the presser, teams wanted to trade for him after the preseason. You want to see what you have there. There's clearly, he's clearly built for it, for an athletic and physical side of the game. And I think there's enough mental there too for him to make it. He's one that I have pretty good hopes for. I've seen him do it during regular season snaps. I even saw him make plays in a playoff game against the Chiefs in negative 30-degree weather. I think there's something there with Bonner and Duck. I think they're the two that you've seen at least regular season NFL snaps from. We're okay, I can see the potential from them. Can they find the consistency? Only way to find that out is if you actually give them real snaps. Then you get to the rookies that you brought in, Jason Marshall Jr. and BJ Adams specifically. Marshall, really great athletic profile. You're probably going to find out what you got from him year one. Very young, very athletic, also has some decent size to him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's someone that sees some playing time early. I don't know if he'll be a starter right away, but I'm sure he's someone, since he was drafted, that will be given a chance to see some playing time. I think he's someone that might not see any playing time. And usually some of those young rookies, you throw them into the fire, it's their best chance of getting acclimated to the NFL quickly. If you don't, you leave them on the bench all year. Sometimes they just fall behind and they never catch up until maybe they're on their next team. So give Marshall Jr. a chance too. Whoever makes it, if you get one of them to be a solid NFL starter, that is great for your team. That means you have a solid NFL starter during this season, and then going into the next season, you're okay, we got one solid starter that we can trust. That can be one of our top 3 guys. Then you have BJ Adams, the UDFA this year that I think has the best chance of being your previous UDFAs. Long, physical, can kind of do some of the same things I'm talking about with Isaiah Johnson. Very good in press. He can dominate. He can be someone that if they do go more press man, he has a very good chance of making an impact and being someone that maybe make plays over the guys I mentioned previously. Another player I didn't mention was Cam Smith. He will also get a crack at it. And he's a player that I could also be seeing as a potential guy that hurts the development of the other players, because Cam Smith was a second-round pick, so I do feel like they will give him a crack pretty early. And he is someone that also has been hurt by injuries. He hasn't really had a chance to even play because of his injuries. But I hope if he's not playing well, he's someone that they're willing to move on from pretty quickly. Like, I do think they should give him a chance. I think all of those guys should get a chance to see some regular season playing time. And I'm not saying just pull someone out right away once they get beat. Like, corner, it's a position where you're gonna get beat. It's one of the hardest positions to play from a physical standpoint in the NFL. Like, you're gonna have your lost reps. But I'm thinking, like, if this stuff continues consistently, and like the reps they're losing are from like a mental standpoint, and they're like continuously losing, it happens for a game or two, then see what else you got. But also, it should be able to get it quicker in if you don't add a veteran free agent, because you should have 2 open spots with Kohu, out there. He can play nickel outside, whatever. You should have 2 open spots to potentially keep these guys going in potential rotation. You can play one guy for, a third of the snaps, another guy a third of the snaps, another guy a third of the snaps. Give a guy a game or two, rotate, or, give a guy half, whatever. There's so many ways to potentially work this. Find out what you got, and I think that's the best thing for this team in the long run. And maybe the other moves would be better short term, but I don't think it moves the needle enough short term where like it completely changes the dynamic of your team, where I think it's even worth it. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And next time, peace.